Hello and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Amy Albero, founder of Revive Center for Wellness.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck. We're both licensed therapists and wellness enthusiasts.
We know how overwhelming it can be to figure out how to navigate your wellness journey.
So each episode, we hope to bring all the pieces together to help you figure out what fits best for you. This week on Wishing You Well, we have another therapist Q&A episode. On these special episodes, Amy and I answer listener questions that have been submitted and actually give advice on these questions. Something that many of you probably know is that therapists don't give their clients advice. And being that this is not a clinical setting, we're taking the opportunity to provide a different angle of support. Just a reminder that this podcast is purely informational and should not act as a replacement for therapy, and as it is not therapy. We have some great questions to answer around in-law relationships and Sunday Scaries today, and we hope you enjoy it.
Living and well life is put together, authentic.
We feel it.
Take care of ourselves. Okay, so we're back with more Q&A, and I loved your little disclaimer at the beginning because, this is, as we said in our very first Q&A episode, this is not a seat that we typically sit in to kind of give advice in this way. So this is pretty special for us to do. Pretty unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely unique. We're not totally used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be our therapist selves a little bit here.
Right. Yes.
So, be nice.
I know this is always a little uncomfy to think about, still sitting in that seat of a therapist, but also like sharing a little bit about our personal take, maybe our opinion about things. Again, things that we don't typically do together, except on reactivity TV.
Right.
But we've loved getting listener questions, and keep sending them in to wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. We would love to hear from you, or look out for those prompts in our Instagram stories at ReviveCFW if you're following us. But let's get into our first question, which actually for me, go ahead.
I just wanted to also say that if you do submit anything, it's anonymous. We're not going to announce who you are on here, which, yes, I know you're going to get into the first one. So we're not going to share who said this. We don't even know necessarily who did say this. So
we don't
proceed.
Know. Yes. We won't share any identifying information. That's the part of us being therapists that we will maintain. And there's no judgment, of course. And we'll want to have this seen from different angles. And the thing that I've really appreciated about getting questions like this is seeing that, while this might feel unique to a particular individual, these are things that certainly resonate for me, especially, both of these questions today, and that I've heard other people talk about. And so it's a really great opportunity to let our listeners know, you are not alone in navigating through some of these challenges. Because if you have a question for us, it's probably something that someone else might be struggling with too. So definitely send it in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good point. All right. The first question, which actually doesn't end in a question mark, but we get it. We understand what the question is. I struggle in my relationship with my in-laws. They don't like me, which makes seeing them feel really stressful. With the summer coming, there are lots of family events. Help.
So I guess the help is,
yeah.
Help me navigate.
Can you help me?
Or, can you help me?
Yeah.
This is tough. I mean, this is tough from a lot of different angles. And, in our, I think it was our episode where we had Carly King on in premarital, talking about premarital therapy, that we touched a little bit on in-law relationships and how we might go in with certain expectations about what those relationships are going to look like. And then the reality might look completely different. And it's not always easy. I mean, and there are stereotypes and generalizations that there are in-law issues for a reason. And it's because you're integrating into a different family, and it's not always easy.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the movie Monster-in-Law, and that's not. But that movie was made as as a satire and an exaggeration of real experiences, that not everybody gets along with their in-laws. And you're right, like, you are entering into a totally different family. You may get along with your spouse, your partner, but that doesn't mean that everybody in their family is exactly like them. And if you want to just think about it, like, you are totally different than the rest of your family. So it's not as much as it would be nice, it shouldn't be necessarily expected that you're just going to, mesh so well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so I guess to this emailer, like, know that it's common to feel like you don't quite fit, or that there might be a little bit of tension or just like some unease that might go into these relationships. But if your experience is that they don't like you, then that must be really hard, and in some ways might feel like its own sense of grief and loss, in feeling like, again, maybe having expectations around what this relationship was going to be like, and then feeling like you're not completely accepted or maybe judged about who you are. That can feel really bad, especially when it's an extension of your family, your new family unit.
Yeah. And especially when you know that you're going to spend so much of your life with them in one way or another, whether that's these summer events that this person's talking about, or holidays, or weddings, or maybe this is a family that gets together weekly. So just knowing that there's this divide and you have this whole life ahead of you can be really difficult to deal with the here and now, and just thinking about, oh, wow, this is what it's going to look like forever.
Yeah. Right. And so this emailer basically said, help me. And so what can we do to help them?
I actually just was really curious at first when I was reading this, that, as much as we're saying, like, how difficult it must be to be a part, how difficult it must be to be a part of a family where people don't like you. I am really curious about how they know that. What was it? Is it something that's been said? Is it something that's just been felt? Is it something that is implied with other certain language and arguments? Or like, what has happened that you've now concluded they do not like me?
I love that you said that. I had that exact same thought of, like, starting with that, like, how do you know this to be true? Like, kind of checking the facts on that. I think that's a really good place to start, because once we get like maybe a little kernel of like doubt about whether or not they like us, right? Like, then confirmation bias can kick in, and we might look for all the examples that confirm, like, oh yeah, see, they don't. And so, like, to really try to ground yourself in what you do know to be true.
Right. And you said it, like, you could just be feeling this, and it could all, and I'm not saying you as the emailer, but like, somebody could just be feeling this and not actually knowing what, like, not actually knowing if it's true, not actually knowing why, not actually knowing anything. And so, not to take away from that feeling, like, clearly there's a feeling now that they do not like you. And I want to like lean into that too. So let's say that it's been stated one way or another, or you heard through the grapevine, or something that has put you like feeling like you're on the outs. What then?
Yeah. Well, and I want to get to answers to that question. But the other thing, because I feel like, again, in kind of emotional situations, we can speak in blanket statements. And so, again, they might not be accurate. And so when you, meaning the emailer, when you say that like my in-laws don't like me, who are you referring to? Is it like just your mother-in-law? Is it just your kind of parents-in-law? Do you like, what about your brothers or sisters-in-law? Like, do you have like, is it everyone, or does it just feel like everyone? Is it maybe a prominent relationship like within that family that makes it feel like it's everyone? And so again, I'd want to kind of check the facts on that. Like, maybe is it just one uncomfortable relationship and the others are like, okay, or is it truly like every single one of my in-laws do not like me? So I try to get really clear in the facts of it all. Because again, if you're going into this with like, my in-laws don't like me, that's so overwhelming, and you're probably not going to enjoy any of the interactions that you have. So I would try to think about that like as well, in terms of like who might you have as an ally, or who do you have an okay relationship with? Maybe it's not like, you know, your own sibling or you're a good friend or a parent, but like who do you have like who do you get along fine with? Who are you cordial with? Who do you feel comfortable with? Try to think about that too.
And when it comes down to it, your spouse is your biggest ally when it comes to any of these relationships, whether it is everybody, one person, a couple of people, that making sure that you are expressing your spouse how it is that you do feel when you're around this person or these people, that they know that, because I mean, it's their family. They could get caught up in the events because they don't have the same experience as you do. They don't have the same relationships as you do. Maybe they really want to be at these summer family events, and you could feel abandoned by them when they go and just do what they are typically so used to, unless you're communicating to them, hey, this is what's going on for me. This is what I need from you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Engaging with your spouse, if they don't know already, like that you are feeling stressed about this, that definitely kind of sharing that with your spouse. And, you know, for me, like, and, you know, if my in-laws if you're listening, you'll, I guess, get a little insight into my experience, but like your spouse knows way more about how your family operates and what the dynamics are and all of that stuff, of course, way more than you do. And I guess I'm saying that with like a specific example in mind where, again, my family of origin does things really different than my husband's family of origin. Like, duh, like, of course that happens. And a couple of months ago, my husband had like a pretty big milestone birthday. And my in-laws came and they brought like paper goods and decorations and a cake and like brought the party essentially. And I make my husband's birthday cake and I had like my own thoughts for decorations and all of that stuff. And so I was feeling like, oh my gosh, like, and I started like going down this road of like, do they not think that I like had planned this? Like, do they not like all of like the worst case scenario, and just thinking like kind of jumping to like, they must be judging me or thinking I'm like not a good spouse and all of that stuff. And my husband was like, Amy, like, this is not unique to you. Like, this is something that like just happens. Like, and he was like, actually, let's call my brother. Like, and he will tell you. And it was so helpful talking to my brother-in-law and him saying like, yeah, she does that. Like, they do that at my house too. Like, that's just like what it is. Like, it has nothing to do with you, like, quite frankly, at all. And just kind of hearing my husband's perspective also helped ground me, and also like getting the validation from my brother-in-law too, made me realize like, yeah, it's not about me. It's not personal. I don't need to take it personal or create more drama in my head than what actually was going on. Yeah. I mean, you also just pointed out something so important here too, that family differences and ways that they interact can be enough for those assumptions to be made. And sometimes those differences are cultural differences, or just literally just way like subcultural differences, where it's like this family is its own culture and they do things the way they do things. And that could just be because that's how they've always done them. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But they could be bigger than that. They could be broader. They could be some kind of other cultural difference. Maybe you come from a family who's really, really soft and delicate, and you're entering into a family of in-laws who are loud and direct. And so you're thinking that means that they don't like you. Mm-hmm. But what it might actually mean is that maybe it actually means that they love you. If they're including you into their culture, their cultural way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Because they're continuing to be who they are in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so I guess it sounds like our first thing that we're saying this emailer is to just kind of like check your perceptions. And to see how accurate they are, and also engage. The second thing would be to like engage your spouse like for support, for perspective, and as an ally as well. Yeah. And if it is actually the case where there is this more contentious relationship that exists, that's a completely different conversation or situation where you and your spouse would have to navigate, what that looks like, what conversations they need to be having with their family about, managing the relationship and things like that, what the boundaries can look like. So I feel like that would be more of a boundaries conversation that would start with you and then be communicated with them.
Right. And how many of these events are you actually obligated to go to? How many of these events are you expected to be at? How many of these events do you feel comfortable going to a point of, like, what is your tolerance level? If there really is this dislike for you, then yeah, that's really uncomfortable. And if you're going to be at these, let's say, weekly events, that's a lot of discomfort that you're enduring for an entire summer. So do you actually have to go? Mm-hmm. You have to go every time. Can you go sometimes? Can you go for a little while? Can you go, but can you leave the room and take breaks when you need to? Or can you just stay home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Such a good point. Yeah. Do you need to go? And when you do go, think about what your participation or what your engagement can look like so that you can get the space, the time that you need. I mean, whenever I've been in situations where like, I feel like maybe I'm not totally accepted, or maybe there is a little bit of tension, like my go-to is like, I'm just going to busy myself with like, collecting everybody's trash.
Cleaning. Yeah.
Like I'll take the dishes in the sink, or like I'll hang out with the kids or something like that. Like just
the dogs.
The dog, yeah, the pets. Like, oh, does anyone's dog need walking, or anything like that? But just kind of almost like distraction by productivity, and that's been a way that I've kind of been able to manage. Like that's allowed me to have maybe a little bit of a break, as well as feel like I'm still kind of like contributing to the event, but in a way that maybe feels a little bit more comfortable for me in that moment.
Oh yeah. Oh, the cleaning one. That one I definitely do. Not necessarily when I am having an issue with an in-law, but if I'm just at a party that I don't want to be at anymore, I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. Mm-hmm. Starting to pick up some cups. I'm starting to put things away. Not because I want the party to wrap up, just because like I don't know what else to do with myself.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. It's so true. Well, and I guess the last thing maybe I'll say is like, and this is like something I'm working on, but their dislike of you, if that is true, probably has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. Probably has more to do with them and their own, I don't know, maybe thoughts about what they were envisioning for their spouse. I don't know if they don't like you, how much time or energy they've even put into getting to know you. So how can they like really make an assessment about who you are? And so I would just try to remember that like other people's opinions has nothing to do with us. It's just their opinion is a reflection about their own perception of the world. And so, I would just try to stay grounded in that. And also, again, another learning for me and just going through challenges in relationships has been to also, for myself, hold the integrity for me to maintain the integrity in myself and how I want to engage. Maybe they're being an asshole, but like, I don't need to meet them there. Like, I still want to walk away from the interaction feeling like I stay true to myself and the integrity that I hold myself to. So like, don't take the bait, I guess, to like stoop to their level. And that's hard to do. And I definitely have done it. But it doesn't feel good to do.
Oh, okay. That's a great way to end that answer. Okay. Love it. You're right.
Good luck.
All right. Yes. Yes. Okay. So next question. Mm-hmm. I have been having a serious case of the Sunday Scaries each week. Oof. It feels like it is getting harder and harder to enjoy my weekend, knowing that Monday is around the corner. Do you have any suggestions about how to handle this?
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get or have you ever had the Sunday Scaries?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm not one for like exaggerating. I feel like using the word Sunday Scaries is such an exaggeration of just like, I don't want the weekend to end. And like, this is so nice. Like, of course, like who doesn't want the weekend to end? And like, who wants to start a Monday morning? Actually, you do. I know you like Mondays.
I do like Mondays.
But it's such a stark transition and like contrast of, all right, you are going from, hopefully, it sounds like this person probably has like pretty free weekends or like just like event filled weekends that are just like workless. So they're going from that to throwing themselves right back into the routine for 5 more days. And that is a really big thing to switch back into. It's not like, unless you're somebody that gets to start the day like noon on Mondays, but like typically people don't get to start. I mean, people don't like extend their weekend into their Monday a little bit to like ease into it. And like, they don't get to this little like comfortable transition. They just are just like, nope, wake up, do it. So I get it. Like Sunday Scaries. I guess that's what it really means. It's like, I don't want this to end. And I know that once it ends, I just have to start. And like, there's no in between.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Like there are.
Oh, I mean, you get Sunday Scaries.
Do I get some? Yeah, I do. And I've been getting them. I haven't like really had them for a while, but I've been getting them more recently. And I certainly prior to Revive had them a lot. And so I've been thinking about that in preparation for this question. But for me, what, like, in addition to what you're saying, like having the, like, okay, Friday at 5 hits, I close my laptop. I don't think about work at all. Like I like fully unplug Friday night, all of day Saturday. And then Sunday, I know what's coming. And it is like a tough transition to go from like unplugged to plugged back in. And sometimes like the weekend doesn't feel like enough. But I know for me, when I start to like experience that feeling of Sunday Scaries, it's like, it just directly relates to my amount of overwhelm that I have, like what I know is coming on Monday, or just like feeling like things are looming the week ahead. And quite frankly, like if I've like drank on Saturday night, like especially, mid 30s, like, I'll say like mid 20s, like alcohol impacts you differently, but alcohol like definitely increase, like that anxiety also hits in. So like that can amplify the feeling of like the scariness that Sunday brings. So anyway, so I guess long story short, yes, I do experience them. Typically it's work related, right? But when I was in previous jobs, I was experiencing like the Sunday Scaries thing a lot. And it was just related to quite frankly, like the
Yeah.
At my work, and my like core boundaries around it as well, like what I contributed to it.
And if you were so reliant, and like I know from when you've told me before, like you were so reliant on those weekends to recharge you completely, because you went from Friday burnt out to Monday already burnt out. Mm-hmm. And so there wasn't this like day-to-day ease that you had. And so I imagine that Sunday Scaries, like this for this person, if it's getting harder and harder to enjoy your weekend, are you so reliant on these 2 days to charge you back up again? And if you are, maybe your work is too much right now. Maybe you haven't had a vacation in a long time. Maybe whatever it is you're taking on is just so much that I also can imagine it 2 days not being enough for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. No. And that, and as you're saying that, like, that was my lifestyle, was like, I'm just going to go hard Monday through Friday. And then, I wouldn't even, I think I was hoping that the weekend would be restorative, but it wasn't. I was like too burnt out for like it to be restorative. And so that's what I would also, just what you're saying, I would, maybe they can't take time off, but like we talk about self-care every week on this podcast. Like maybe it's time to like sprinkle some appetizer self-care menu items in your week to help like manage some of the stress that you might be feeling at your job, so that you can actually restore and recover a little bit more effectively over the weekend. And the other thing that I would say, in terms of the weekend getting shorter and shorter, or feeling shorter and shorter, the other thing I hear people talk about when they talk about Sunday Scaries is like maybe initial onset, quote unquote, of Sunday Scaries is like Sunday night, but over time that can extend like through the day, like Sunday morning, then you wake up. And so like you're perseverating on the fact that like, oh my God, like I only have one more day until the weekend. And so it like robs you of your weekend because you're so
and I know from
stress.
Yes. Like you're just anticipating it and it might not even be there yet. Like I know so like on Sundays, I'll go over to my in-laws for dinner. And as soon as dinner's over, not even necessarily over, like a bunch of us might still be at the table. My husband will just like go and sit on the couch, and it's like within view, but like he's not at the table anymore. He just kind of like checks himself out for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I pointed it out to him one time and I was like, we're still going over here. And, and you seem to just retreat. Like, what's going on? And he like then proceeded to tell me like, that's like when it's like set in, it's like, oh, dinner's over. And now it's like, oh, like work's tomorrow. And like, I need to like get into the mode and like, rather than like, it's tomorrow, like it all of a sudden feels like it's today and it's right now. Mm-hmm. And that's what gets so scary is like this inability to separate. Okay, no, I'm still at Sunday dinner. Like I'm still over at my parents' or my in-laws' house and I'm not there yet, but like my mind's gone there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, for sure. And yeah. And I've been there, and I actually like have that. As you're talking about this, I'm thinking about like my exact same experience with like Sunday dinners with my family. And it's like 5 o'clock on a Sunday rolls around and it's like, it's a school night.
Will forever be a school night.
Kind of idea. But yeah, I guess I'm thinking about what contributes to the feeling. And for some people that I work with, and for myself as well, like the overwhelm just like keeps coming to mind, like thinking about what you're walking into on Monday. And so what I often recommend to people is like, maybe don't like close your laptop at 5 o'clock on Friday, or build in some time on Friday to set yourself up for success on Monday, to like create a plan, so that like whenever you start to have that anxiety or overwhelm pop up, you have something to ground to in like, nope, like I'm going to whatever. I know I have 50 emails in my inbox. Like I'm going to respond to them at X time on Monday. Or like, I know I have this big project due. I have time blocked out on Monday to work on it. So like, so that you can, I don't know, a plan is really helpful when you're maybe feeling anxious. So to really maximize your Friday afternoon or again, maybe a few minutes after work on Friday to set yourself up for success on Monday. And then maybe our emailer or maybe some other listeners have different types of flexibility. Like maybe you don't have a 9 a.m. Meeting on your calendar on Monday, and you can use the beginning part of your Monday to like, again, go through your inbox. Like that for me is the first thing I do on a Monday morning. I'm going to open my inbox and like see what's waiting for me and just go for it. And then clearing that out like feels very productive. It feels like I've already started my Monday, like less overwhelmed. So like trying to figure out a way that you can like create some ease into Monday would be a good first step.
Well, I think you said a lot of steps.
That's true. I did.
That's
good
one of them.
10th step.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I guess the other thing that I really wanted to, or I guess two more things I really wanted to hit on are to also think about what your relationship to work is. And if it is becoming like, if work is all consuming to you, then that is really something to reflect on and to think about, because like, despite the fact that we live in like a hustle culture, like work is meant to stay at work, like for our own well-being. And so if you find that you are constantly stressed about work or worried about work, like that is something to really think about and because I feel like it's one of two things, or maybe it's a mixture of both, that it's your relationship to work, which for me, that was a big piece that contributed to Sunday Scaries. That work was so much of my identity or so much of how I like viewed my sense of worth. And so it felt like everything hinged on me being as successful as possible or productive as possible at work, which is so much pressure. So that's one piece that I would really want our emailer to explore. And then the other thing is to also think about like, maybe it is not a great environment for you. Like maybe it isn't a good fit. And so to also be thinking about that, like if your work is negatively impacting your mental health, like it's okay to leave. It's, you know, like that should not be like the only, like if that is the only contributor to your stress, then like there's a simple, not easy, but simple solution to that. And again, maybe that's a privileged answer to say, but to consider making a change in what your job is or your work is could also be an option. You don't have to suffer.
Good point. Well, thank you to these emailers. Thank you to people who are sending in their questions. We love them. We hope this was helpful and can't wait to hear some more. So please keep sending them to wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. And again, we will answer them anonymously, and hopefully you'll get yours on the pod.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right.
All right. Well, on to self-care. Speaking of self-care and making sure you get in your self-care on your Sundays, which if, by the way, you have not checked out our Instagram on Sundays, Amy has a great self-care check-in that is so helpful. So definitely check it out on our Instagram at ReviveCFW, because she does it every Sunday and it's wonderful. But we're going to check out our self-care now because we have to keep doing that. It's for our well-being and it's for your well-being. We hope that you're checking on your self-care. And so we're going to order off our menu. And Amy, what are you ordering today?
I'm ordering 2 main courses, but I'm not sure. They're doozies. So like, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to finish them, I guess, if we're stay in this framework. Yeah. So the first is, and I had shared this with Catherine before we started recording, my sleep is like completely out of whack. I just got back from Miami. When I was in Miami, I did not sleep well at all. I was like getting up at like 1 a.m. and then 4 a.m. and like for a week straight. And the night before recording this, I went to bed early. I had an early flight, but then I woke up at midnight this morning, I guess, and I could not fall back asleep. And so it is 3:30 p.m. and I've been up since 12 a.m. So long story short, main thing I need to order from the menu is some sleep, some good sleep, like some real good sleep. So that is definitely on my menu. And then the other thing, which again is kind of a tall order, but this is something I also said to Catherine earlier this week that, well, I guess what I'll say, if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm wearing glasses. I'm not wearing makeup. My hair is curly. I have a sty in my eye right now. And again, Miami humidity is freaking crazy, doing a number on my hair. But I just feel gross. And I was like talking really meanly about myself. I think I referred to myself as a gremlin the other day or like an ogre with my like one eye. And like, that's not nice. And I was noticing even this afternoon while I was like trying to figure out what I was going to wear, that my self-talk was so negative and just like so mean. And so that's something that I want to be more mindful of, especially like, I didn't create the humidity. Like my hair's going to do what it's going to do. And I don't know, this dye, I don't know where I came from. It just happened and I'm trying to figure it out. So I guess I need to be a little bit more compassionate with myself and notice my self-talk. So like I said, these are two huge like entrees that I don't know if I'll be able to like do in one sitting. But I need to like start take a few bites of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, we've never brought up self-talk as a form of self-care. And I love that you just brought that up because it absolutely is. Mm-hmm. You're right. The worse we talk to ourselves, the worse we feel. And the better we talk to ourselves, the better we feel. Mm-hmm. And that is a great way to care for yourself, is to be mindful of the way that you are talking to yourself. I love it.
Right. It's one of the most nourishing things that we can do. And one of the most harmful things if we're not being very nice. So, yeah.
Also, I thought you were on a really good sleep streak before this. What happened?
I don't know. I was doing so well, like having good deep sleep, no like cortisol spiky wake ups, and being sick, I think threw things off. And so I feel like I just got out of a rhythm. And so I'm not traveling until the end of this month. And so I have some time to like get back into a rhythm as well. So I think that's a piece of it too. Yeah. What about you? What's on your menu?
Well, I have a little self-care update. So a little while back, I had talked about not wanting dishes in the sink. Check, did that. And I talked about, I've kept up with that. Yeah, there's more. And then I talked about how, all right, I've been doing that. Now I really want to be the person that like puts the chargers away. Check, been doing that.
Whoa.
And then I was like, we'll see if I get to be the person that wipes down my counters. Whoa, been doing it.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
I know. And I feel like I'm living in a different place. It's so nice. And I guess living and working in a different place because like I spend so much time here and now it just feels different. Like the pillows on my couch are fluffed and like set in their spot and like everything's just like the way that I want it to be. And it hasn't taken too much effort all at once. It was just these little incremental things that I knew were going to impact it. So I don't know what's next. I'm just going to keep up this countertop thing and see what happens, but I don't know.
I love that. I mean, I'm thinking about our habits episode. Like what strategy, I guess, did you use in order to like cultivate these like now self-care habits? Like, how did you do it?
So the dishes one was like simply, I guess, just right after I put it there, I have to wash it. Like instead of it sitting there, I have to wash it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also if it's not there before I start my nighttime routine, I have to get them out of the sink. I do, or my husband does, like, because both of us want it to be like that. The cords, that's also like a night thing. It's like the last thing I check before I go into my room. It's like, are all the cords out? So that, and then the counter one, I haven't totally like mastered yet because it hasn't been like a full routine thing. It's more of just like well, now that the counters are cleaned off because there's no dishes sitting on them, like, it's easier to do it. So like, I'll just do it when I do it. So it's not like a habitual thing yet. It's just like been happening because of the other things that just kind of like fallen into place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. And it like doesn't actually take that long, like,
no, and like I have a small kitchen.
Yeah. Right. That's awesome. I'm so jealous. I need to do that. Those, like, they do make such a big difference. Like those little things, they really do.
And like the difference is, it's like I walk into I wake up and I enter my living room and I see how, I fluffed the pillows last night before I went to bed, and I don't see in the outlets. And like I walk in my kitchen and it's like already clean, and I'm like, who did this? Who was the magician that came overnight? Like,
that's nice. It's taking care of future Catherine as well. Your future selves. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, I actually was thinking about it because we just had the end of a month happen. Are you doing your nightly gratitude?
look.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, for those of you who might not recall, Elise McCandless, our colleague, was on, and she talked to us about her daily gratitude practice, writing down a couple of things that she's grateful for, like kind of these micro moments. And Catherine adopted this practice. This was back in the end of April, and
April 26th was the first one.
Yeah. It's June 2nd, time of recording. So you've been doing it for over a month.
I know. It's been so nice. And like also been I wouldn't say it's like a habit because I set an alarm every night, but like I'm listening to the alarm.
Mm-hmm. You're doing
I'm not ignoring it. Yeah, it's been really, it's like such a nice way to ease into sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No, I was thinking about it. I was like,
yeah, because it's like I'm reflecting on the day, but I'm not reflecting on any of the stressors of the day. I'm just looking at those glimmers that Lily's talked about. So it's a sweet way to tie up the day. And sometimes I get really excited about it. And I show my husband, I'm like, look at what I wrote.
So I love that. Oh,
yeah.
Nice. You're really killing it at the self-care game, Catherine.
Crushing it over here.
It's awesome.
Telling you, it's second trimester, Catherine. throw it at me.
Well, I'm inspired. I'm going to go unplug all of my chargers and wipe off my countertops.
Don't do all that.
The dishes, not so much, but yeah.
I wouldn't do all of that if it wasn't like a team. That's a team effort, that one.
Yeah. My husband and I have different comfort level. Like he's fine with letting things like pile up.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be as much of a team effort, but the other things he can get on board with. I'll see. I'll update you. But we love the self-care update. That's awesome. And we hope, as Catherine said right before our self-care menu, we hope that you are checking in with yourselves about your self-care, making those little tweaks and adjustments every week right along with us. So keep doing it. But thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for sending us your questions, for following along. And make sure you share this episode with a friend that might also maybe experience Sunday Scaries, or maybe they have a tough experience with their in-laws, or maybe just tough time in a relationship where they need to see these people anyway. That we hope this helps you and helps them too. And make sure you are following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and giving us those reviews. We love hearing your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Revive Center for Wellness, so you get our bonus podcast, Reactivity TV, as well as amazing wellness content. So much stuff on there, such a great resource. You can also follow us on Instagram at ReviveCFW. You can follow Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck, me at Amy Albero LCSW. Check out our website, revivecfw.com. And again, send us those emails, those listener questions to wishingyouwell at revivecfw.com. Thanks again. And until next time, we are wishing you well.